You know what I miss? Hair metal bands.
I miss lamp.
Well, at least we aren't on intervention.
True that. My mom hustled me off the phone because it was time for her French reality show. Thanks a lot, Mom.
Have such a good day. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants desperately for you to do just that.
How is everybody out there? In there, are you embracing your inner homebody, perhaps?
I am.
I know you are.
I mean, you should see me right now. My gosh, you know.
I know we're both like matchy-matchy this morning. Neither of us washed our hair this weekend. We're both wearing
You
a
didn't
blue
have to tell them
baseball
that,
cap. We're both wearing gray hoodies.
Yeah.
It was a lazy weekend.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we're recording this on a Monday morning, so another week, Heather, another week.
Another week. Happy birthday, Lisa. My friend Lisa's birthday is today. And
Happy birthday, Lisa.
Yeah, it's always interesting to have a birthday on a Monday because you have to try extra hard to like make it special because like Mondays are kind of eh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope you have a good one.
I love how much you care about birthdays.
I
You're
do.
like, the Monday birthday is just sort of meh, you have to try so hard.
Well, it's like the day you were born. It's like kind of a miracle,
I guess so. That's a good way to think of it. Well, if you're new to the show, this is where Heather and I'm Sarah, by the way, try to unpack the absurdity of everyday life because, boy, can it get weird.
It can get weird. It can get hard. We can get cynical and skeptical. So we try to have a little bit of fun on this show. Get away from all the heavy stuff,
Yeah, although I will say, I feel a little heavy. I mean, not necessarily
like physically.
Well, I physically kind of do. I do. I ate like crap over the weekend, and that's just what I did. But no, it's some weeks drag along a bit, and last week was sort of a hard week. I don't even really have nothing terrible happened, but like this is such a weird thing that happened. But I've got this. It's a June oven. It's like a smart oven. And it's about the size of a toaster oven, right? And it's over in my kitchen, kind of on a counter by the microwave. And I use it a lot. And it's great for, if you're like toasting bagels or whatever. Lots of things. And I had been toasting something. And so it was really hot inside. And I reached my hand in because I just was like, I don't know, couldn't grab an oven mitt taking 1 second out of my day, and I accidentally, the top of my hand touched, the ring, whatever, the hot thing. And I burned myself. And it wasn't like, with burns, at first you're like, oh, that hurt, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And then
and then it sets in.
It kind of sets in. Yeah. And it wasn't even, I mean, I definitely, I burned myself, but I didn't even like run my hand under cold water. It was just a little blip where I was like, that was stupid. Why'd you do it that way, Sarah? And then the next day I was like, I looked down at my hand and I'm like, what is that? It kind of looked like a strange bruise. It wasn't even really like a burn. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what is wrong with me? I have
like
leprosy.
Part of an alien abduction.
It was just kind of a strange thing because I kind of saw it out of the corner of my eye and I had forgotten all about the burn. It was just weird. Well, that was like a week ago and it has gotten it's healing slowly but surely, but like it was worse than I thought it was.
Yeah, burns are weird like that. It's like a blister, it's like gets purple and I've had that before.
Yeah.
And it dries out.
Yeah, and you have that like it's like crinkle skin.
Yes.
And then it sort of becomes like a scab and I was just like, it's awful. And I mean, thank goodness I live alone because I didn't even bother to put a Band-Aid over it, but I was like, in public someone would be like, oh gosh, what's happening to this woman?
The aloe that you buy in like the jar, like it's in a bottle, it's just like the pure aloe. That stuff is like magic for burns, and especially because I burn my tongue a lot because I get totally sort of impatient when I'm like heating up soup or something, and I always burn my tongue. But if you swish some of that aloe in your mouth, it works amazing.
Really?
Highly recommend. Yeah.
Wow. I don't I love how you're like, listen, I just burned my mouth a lot, so here's my solution.
Well, it's funny because I relate to like you rushing to grab your thing out of your oven because I tend to, there's times when I'm kind of, my boyfriend would be like, just slow down, because I'm like trying to make food real fast or I'm trying to do the dishes real fast and like, plate flips out of my hand and, it's like, just slow the F down. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I have the same issue. Sometimes I'm like, it's like, and it's all in your mind, right? Because it's like, sure, maybe I'm in a hurry, but 30 seconds doesn't matter.
No, not at all.
But yeah, you're like, I'm in a frenzy. I need the dishes to be done so I can sit.
No, it's exactly like that because it's never like where I'm really trying to rush out of the house. It's like I just want to get dinner. I want to sit down. I want to relax. It's like rushing to relax, which is kind of ironic,
Yeah, yeah.
So, anywho, so you had a crazy week?
It was a crazy week. There are it's getting busy around these parts for the Airbnb, and it's. I talk about it all the time because there's always something, but it was a quiet couple of months. Really, after the first of the year, there have been a couple parties that have come and gone, but a lot of empty house, and that's cool. I mean, I like it when it's just me here, but the sort of rush of Airbnb for pretty much 2021 has begun. I mean, looking ahead to like October, we don't have anybody booked for October yet, but like it's booked.
Oh yeah.
Besides a day, here and there, it's like
it's insane.
And it starts to become, and I've done this already, and I know how it is, and you just kind of get used to. There's just always like strange people that may need to ask me questions, and you just kind of have to deal with that stuff. I know how it goes, and it'll be fine. I think once a few more weeks go by and I'm just like, it's my reality, and I kind of have to just make sure I do my laundry in between people coming and going and that sort of thing. But yeah, it feels like I'm looking at, it's like the Monday feeling, but it's the whole year.
Oh yeah, no, I feel the same way. I was actually just doing like the big like next 4 month like housekeeping schedule, and it was like almost every day. Like it was like the longest line of like dates, for every month.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I mean, we don't have a 2-night minimum. And I want to change that, but every time I want to change it, we just get booked. And then I go, I'm going to do it. And, it's a little intense having people stay. 'Cause a lot of people do book one night and then, you've got a way busier schedule. I like it when people book like a week or something, so then I don't have to like worry about
Oh gosh, yeah, and
it every second.
it's a little inside baseball for Airbnb, but Heather and I both deal with this, and the minimum means at where Heather is, someone can just come for a night. The problem with that, and the reason that there's a 5-night minimum where I am, is that it's a huge like estate, with like multiple kitchens, and I mean it's a huge cleaning job, and you have to clean it the same way even if someone stays for just one night or like a month.
And it takes all day probably for you. See, ours is like maybe a 2 to 3 hour turnaround because they're small cabins.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Well, especially with,
a whole thing.
There's not that it shouldn't be cleaned well anyway, but there's like COVID sanitation stuff, and it's like you just really have to play by the book on that one.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's like, it's just not worth it. I mean, I'm not paying the housekeeper, the landlord is, but it's a big thing. So
it's a lot to coordinate for sure.
A lot of coordination.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've been a little behind on my Saturday Night Live. I usually watch them on Sunday mornings because I don't know, I can't be bothered to stay up late on Saturday night. It's just like a fun little. It's my Sunday morning thing. But I've been kind of, I don't know, busy or doing other stuff, and so I had a few that were waiting in the wings, and I caught up on everything over the weekend, which was funny. And one of the skits that I loved, and if you've seen it, well, I don't know, maybe you thought it was funny, maybe you didn't, but it's a skit that's like a song about women who, like, it's like, it's me time tonight. Like the husband's out with his friends, and I'm gonna treat myself to some murder shows.
Oh yeah, I love it.
It's so
Well,
funny.
they originally started out with like, I think the original skit was them doing like it was like Sarah Silverman doing like the face masks, and it was like me time,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And now, yeah, like this whole thing about murder shows is hilarious.
It has evolved. And it's funny because I'm actually not really, the person who's seen every episode of Law and Order kind of thing, but there are a lot of those people. And I mean, I know the joke is that it's like, oh, it's something that women like kind of thing. But it's like, that really is kind of weird, right? Like, why,
it is weird.
Why do we like these things so
and
much?
it's like there's so many of them now. There's like a trend or something. Like it was funny how they flipped through all the different like Netflix titles. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of those shows now.
Yeah, I know.
Like more than usual.
More than usual. So yeah, I don't know, sometimes I get hooked on a series or whatever, or someone says, oh, this is episode, whether it's like true crime or something that's fictional. Sometimes I watch that, but it's definitely not something, I do like to treat myself. And I have my stuff that I like, but I'm like, yeah, murder shows, like, it's just like not a thing that I'd be like, cool. It's like raining tonight. I have nothing to do. I'm going to just like binge
I'm home alone.
some shows about murder.
Freak myself out.
But what I do, and I think that other people think it's weird, is I love shows about like drug addiction. For example, Intervention. Intervention was like on a hiatus or something for a while. It was like a popular show. I watched every single episode. I was just so into it. And the thing about the show is like, it almost never really ends well. It's like they go to rehab. That's the whole thing. There's like a formula to the show. And, you get to know like why the person has gone into whatever spiral that they're in. And it's really bad. It's like, it's not like entertaining at all. And then, sometimes they like, check in like 3 months later, Sarah is feeling much better. And, you kind of like, you see them and they're like, oh, new lease on life and that kind of thing. But like, usually it'll just be like the slate at the end where it's like, Sarah left rehab after 3 days. She continues to use heroin. And then the show's over and you're like, oh, well, that didn't end well. But it's like, I love the show. I don't, and I'm like, why do I like this?
It's a very interesting psychological thing for sure.
Yeah, like I don't want anyone to have these problems. And yet here I am like eating dinner and being like, yay, Intervention. It's a weird thing. And I was actually doing it last night because there was a new episode. And I mean, it was like really bad. I mean, it was one of the worst. And yet I'm like kind of like excited about it. So yeah, I don't know what that says about me.
For you. Well, it reminds me because my sister's really into like serial killer shows and a lot of the like forensic files and stuff like that. But she's not like dark and twisted per se, but there's something about it.
She herself is not a serial killer.
You might be, but no, just kidding. No, I mean, and then here, this might help shed some light on your situation, Sarah.
Okay.
Because I know you're really into reality shows, and most of our audience knows that I'm not so much into them. And I think the reason why I don't like reality, like I don't really want to know what humans are really doing. I prefer narrative and story-based stuff because I like to kind of, it's like that escapism thing. But if I see too much of what like, Jerry Springer type stuff, it freaks me out. Like to me, like a horror movie doesn't really scare me because it's kind of like fictional. But like Jerry Springer to me will depress me, because it's like real life.
Is Jerry Springer even on TV anymore? See, that kind of reality I'm not into either. Well,
that was a bad example.
It's almost like it's like watching.
Does it make you feel better about your life because you're like, well, I don't need an intervention, so like I'm feeling better about myself?
I don't know. I mean, I am often like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't have a heroin addiction. I mean, or that kind of thing. Or you see somebody and you're like, wow, they're something terrible happened in their childhood and that's why they're struggling as an adult. And again, it's like it's not funny at all. I don't really like. I can't sort of pinpoint why I find I get value out of it. I think it's like it's just fascinating. I guess.
I think it's what it is.
I think that maybe that's what it is. Now that I'm like talking myself through it, it's like I am fascinated by why something can happen in someone's life and it triggers like the rest of their life. Well, some people have addictions for, I mean, can have addictions for all sorts of reasons. Something distinctive didn't necessarily need to happen to you, but that's often the case. It's like, oh, my parents had a terrible divorce when I was 6, and like I never got over it, kind of thing. It's like you start to see these patterns where you're like,
Sure.
it's like a little bit of me being like, an armchair psychologist, where I'm like, aha, yes, I
Yeah,
can
I think it
see
could
where you snapped here, and now you need some help to get out of this. Maybe I should, get my psychology degree.
It's definitely, I know, I've always thought about that. It is fascinating, and I think there's a lot of psychological reasons why we're drawn to things. I mean, why do I like certain horror movies? I mean, the other night, and this is again, like, I wouldn't have chosen this movie. This is something that was brought to the table by my boyfriend. He did a documentary on like sexploitation and like grindhouse movies and stuff, like way back when. So he's just very knowledgeable about some of these really fringy like genres and stuff. And like, I would have never chosen this. This thing is called like blood feast or something like that, and it's about here's the thing it's going to, there's a bit of a theme with what I want to talk about today, and part of it is that, so this movie is about, here's the premise. It takes place in like a hick forested area, and a bunch of bombshell, like really tough and like beautiful softball players. They're on a team and they're playing the hicks in the town. So they're like, it's basically girls against hicks, girls against guys. And I mean, it is the dumbest premise ever. And you see the cover and everything. It's just like, and I'm like, come on, we're seriously going to watch this. It was so entertaining. I mean, it was like totally something that opens your mind to, again, like it's like, I wouldn't say it's my top 50 favorite movies, but it was damn entertaining. And I've thought about it for the last couple days. And so why do we like these things? Because it would never be something that, it was totally hokey, and like kind of silly dialogue, but there was a lot of good in it. It was funny as hell. And so
Well, there you go.
I think that, it's okay to go astray from time to time, Sarah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I will continue to watch Intervention as long as they keep making episodes. It's kind of funny. So the show was on, I don't know, I'm like 10 years ago, whenever it was a popular show, and it was like social media existed. So you'd see like the rounds of people being like, oh my God, did you see that? That was a really weird intervention, kind of thing. And it's A&E is the network. And then A&E came out with Hoarders. And at first I was like, oh, here we go. No, it actually, it's like, even me, I couldn't watch it. It's too sad and disturbing. Yeah. It was just like, I can't do it. I can't deal. I cannot do this. And then Intervention kind of went away and I totally forgot about it. And then it sort of resurfaced and there was like a whole season, that I had found on, one of my apps where I'm like, whoa, I haven't seen any of these. These are like new. Oh my gosh. And it was all Canadians. It was like the franchise like had somehow moved to Canada and they never really talked about that explicitly. Like that wasn't part of the storyline, but you're just like, what is this town? Where is it's like in Canada somewhere. And that part was like also fascinating to me because it's just, I don't know. It's like family dynamics and where are they and where they live. And
it is fascinating. It's funny. I dodged a bullet way back when my first time in LA after doing like the broadcast television stuff with you. I had another kind of producer friend who, it was when reality TV kind of started bubbling up. This was like, I don't know, like early 2000s ish. And I had an opportunity to like get on that train. And my producer friend was like going from he worked on Hoarders, going from one reality show to the next. And I remember being really scared of it. I'm like, I do not want to get caught up in this being a producer for reality shows. And
Right.
I had to really take a hard turn because I kind of fell into it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this because I knew it would be something that I would end up doing for a while because you just get caught up.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like your deal.
No.
Although I'm sure you would have been a wonderful producer. But it's from everything that I have seen, especially what it's like, I don't know, like the reality shows where it's like you're just like following people around 24/7 and then you just decide what makes the hour of television, week after week. It's like, that's a lot of work. Oh my
But
gosh.
that could be fun though, like especially the improvising part of it, where you're just like, how is this going to play out? Let me help craft the story.
Yeah.
Which I think that part could be really cool if you're on like the creative side. But I feel like if you're on like the, I don't know, the nuts and bolts side, sounds like a total nightmare. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, how has your week been, Heather, besides watching Bloodlust or whatever it was?
I can never remember these damn titles, but I could talk about all the details and how these women got murdered in the forest. Anyway, I have had kind of like you, Sarah. I mean, you and I commiserate about this stuff a lot. There's just a lot of problem solving, lots of negotiating, lots of renovating, lots of ing of things. And I'm just really trying to stay active and get stuff done. I'm kind of, again, like I get kind of obsessive about my to-do list. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then I'm like, I delete it and I get like so much satisfaction. And it made me actually think about, when I go outside and I'm doing kind of like weeding or gardening or kind of deadheading and that kind of thing. It's kind of the same thing. It's like this getting rid of the old and bringing in the new. And there's something psychologically just very satisfying for me. It makes me feel productive, but I digress. I was kind of anxious this week about booking a vacation because you kind of get these rumblings lately because people are getting their vaxes and, people are talking about trips they're going on, and a lot of people are booking our cabins and they're coming from far and wide. I mean, these people are like, wow, you're driving all the way here from North Carolina, really? And so I had a friend who invited me to Hawaii this summer, and I'm like starting to kind of get that feeling of like everyone's going to be rushing to book the cute boutique hotel in the whatever city, and I have a feeling it's just gonna be so booked and so like competitive and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of the week kind of like scheming the year, like how can I get away? When could I get away? So I sort of in the interim, I thought, I'm just going to go get a massage, just something at the very least, because it's been a stressful couple of months for sure. I needed someone to rub my shoulders. And so I was kind of poking around, I take pride in like whenever I've moved to a new city, I like to curate my experiences and find like the best of the best, or what I think is the best, my favorite taco spot and my favorite Asian restaurant and my favorite hairdresser, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know much about anything up here. So I was kind of poking around for a massage therapist. And usually I can kind of glean from reviews and from, maybe pictures of their studio or their space, like if I like the vibe.
Fit. Yeah.
If it's a good fit. And I had an interesting experience because I really made a new friend, a friend that I would never have thought would be my friend. And her name is Barb. And I found her via sort of a word of mouth thing, but I had to do my own research. So I went to her website. It was actually kind of hard to find her website. It was like via Facebook. She had like a weird link, that went to like an outside site. And
Barb is a massage therapist.
Barb is a massage therapist.
Okay.
Yes. But here's the thing that I've noticed in the country that does drive me batty, because I find myself a modern woman. Like I think I like good websites. I like good technology that works. I like video that looks good. I like stuff that's high tech. And I was so turned off by her website that I can't even believe I went and saw her. I was so turned off, Sarah. It was like, it really took me back. It's like a complete relic from early internet.
I have seen the website, and it's true. I mean, it's almost like she's kidding.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Just like it's like a GeoCities thing, and there's like
total
like,
GeoCities,
like weird like clip
Netscape.
art kind of
Yeah. It was like before the internet ruined our lives. Remember that? Remember way back when?
Yeah, barely.
Here's what it looks like, because I mean we're an audio show, so you obviously can't see it. If you really, really want to see it, maybe I'll send you the link. But I don't want to. She's a wonderful. I love Barb. Barb is my friend, and I would like to keep it that way. So this website, let me walk you through it.
Yeah, we're not going to dox Barb today.
We are not going to. And I mean, isn't it wonderful to just have a friend named Barb?
I don't have any friends named Barb. I did watch Barb and Star, which I didn't think was funny at all.
Yeah, I wasn't even that excited about that movie.
It just wasn't. I don't know.
It's always the same thing over and over.
But yeah, no, I don't. I actually can't think of one Barb I even know.
Me neither.
Huh.
But her website, I'm getting back to her website. It's 3 shades of green, maybe even 4 actually. And that's it. Like there's no other color. It's like all green. There are beveled buttons. Do you remember beveled buttons? Like
yeah.
on the left nav,
Sure.
it's like
Yeah.
chunky, ugly, blocky, beveled green buttons. There are about 8 different fonts. And this is like a very simple website, but she's using about 8 different fonts on one page. And, I was a web developer for a short time before I became a TV producer. And I remember one of the rules was it rapes the eyes when you have a bunch of fonts sort of like competing against each other,
Sure.
And so there's a hokey black and white drawing of her face with like a blurry, like edge, like framed in an oval, and she's smiling. And I mean, it's just like, are you for real? Her name at the top, it says her full name is in a beveled font, like a different font that's like cursive-y kind of thing, like a blocky with flowers on the letters.
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and guess that someone, perhaps Barb herself, but someone made this a long time ago and she was like, great. And just never,
Totally.
never looked
back. And the
back.
thing is, I've noticed this in the country too. People do not have great websites. It's really frustrating. You can't look at inventory. They're just way behind. I feel like they're like back in time in these little rural communities. I hate that word. And then last, I will mention there is a button that says Barb's Tips. I was like, oh yeah, I want to know what her tips are. And it goes to a page with a broken Flash player. And I just think it is wonderful. But the moral of the story is to never judge a person by their website homepage, because just because she has beveled buttons doesn't mean she doesn't give a good massage, because by golly, she gave a great massage. And I'm going to go back to her probably in a few weeks.
Oh, that's great.
She was wonderful.
That's great. Barb may have pulled a fast one over on all of us. Here you were like, I don't know about this whole thing. Look at the website. And then you walk out of the massage place and you feel great and you love her.
I'm pleasantly surprised. And that's why I'm telling you all out there that don't think that just because it's an ugly website, it doesn't mean the service is going to be bad. So give people a chance.
I haven't actually gone to see her, but I met this woman who's occasionally at the high school where I run my dog Otis around with her dog. And we got to chatting, because we see each other often enough. And she's a massage therapist, and she recently moved here from, somewhere else to kind of, I don't know, get away from the city life or whatever the story was. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah. Like, are you going to like have a spot or, and she said, yeah, I'm going to be over by the post office. Do you know where that is? I'm like, yeah, I like go there all the time. That's so great. Mm-hmm. That's like pretty convenient. And again, it's kind of like where you live, Heather. I mean, if someone's like, oh, I'm in the general area, I'm like, I mean, how many miles are we talking? Like, it's probably not within a mile,
Yeah.
And I haven't gone there yet, but she was kind of setting up her new studio and just just getting settled in. And I said, do you have a website, like, so I can, like, I don't know, like book a service or whatever. And it was kind of like, she's like, well, I have a business card. Do you want that? And I'm like, sure, let's start there. And the business card like linked to like a Facebook page that was like definitely hadn't been updated and like wasn't accurate and like didn't have any information, where I was just like, huh, okay, well, I guess I'll just like stop by sometime when I'm like going to the post office anyway. Card. Yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, yeah, not everybody is, like dialed in, I guess would be the way.
It's so true.
Or just they don't care. They're like, why do I know? What does it matter? Like, I just want to.
I think living in the city has
down.
sort of ruined us in a lot of ways, because we have these expectations, of this dialed world. I get kind of frustrated with that. I'm like, get your shit together. Mm-hmm. But it's like it takes all kinds, and I'm starting to appreciate the kind of lower tech, because, like, I don't know, they're taking more naps, and good for them.
Yes, they might be, or they might just be doing heroin.
That is true.
You never know what's going on.
You really don't know. And there's like in the small town thing too. It's like island time. I feel like there's that same vibe here, where it's like we might be open on Sunday, but we might not. Just check back. There is a lot of that here, and it's frustrating. It's like I tried to get breakfast yesterday, and like the only place to go to get like some kind of breakfast food is a bagelery, and there's like a line down the street because it's the only thing open on a Sunday. And that kind of stuff is, I find, very frustrating.
I had a hankering for this particular kind of tortilla chip. And the other day, and it's like
Sounds like
they're
you.
like salt and lime, and it's like you can get them in a couple different places. But I knew that the grocery store was doing like they have like senior hours on Tuesday and Thursday in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was kind of out and about, you know, I had taken my dog on a walk, and so it was my errand time. And I knew that the grocery store wasn't open yet, and I'm like, I really want those chips. And I mean, I wasn't gonna eat like so many chips at 8:30 in the morning, but I wanted them later. That was just what I wanted that day.
You had a hankering.
I had a hankering, and then I was like, wait a second. There's that convenience store that's like across from the gas station. I think I've seen the chips there, which is weird because it's like not like, you know, a gourmet store by any means, you know, like check it out. And I drive up, and it's like there's like a chain on the front door. It's like clearly not open, and I just have never been there so early before. You know, it's like a store where you'd get like beer or you know, beef jerky or whatever. It's like I just don't go there very much. Also by the post office. And so I'm like, okay, not open. And then I had to go back at some point, like a couple days later, and I was going to the post office. I was dropping something off, and as I'm coming back sort of down it's like a little shopping center. So there's like one driveway for a bunch of places, and I see that it's open, and I'm like, wait, it's like super early. And I was so confused that I went in and I was like, hey, what time did you guys open? And the woman who was working behind the counter, she's really nice. You know, I've seen her there before. She's like, what? And we are open. And I'm like, no, I just in general, like, what time do you open? And she was like, sometimes at 8, sometimes at 10. Like she was so vague about it, where I was like, got it. So you just might be open next time I come by in the morning. Just checking. Yeah.
Oh man.
It was just like I almost like was like respect. Like you just
totally.
you just do not care. Like you're just gonna open when you open, and I might come in and buy some chips. It's been, I mean, this year in general has been like are they open? Is it outdoor dining only? Is it takeout? Is it, you know, I've gone so inward where, I mean, I try to just cook as much as possible for myself because I enjoy that anyway, so no big deal. But it still requires me to, you know, go get the stuff that I need to make the things. But I don't want to do that 7 days a week. So and then it turns into, well, my problem is I get lazy and then I just get delivery. And once I get something delivered, it's like, I'm going to eat too much sodium. I'm going to not feel that great afterwards. Oh, I will wake up with a moon face for sure. You know,
and you have to be on Instagram here. I feel like every business posts like their specials or like what soups they have that day on Instagram only. They don't have a website. So you have to be on Instagram and you have to check daily they have.
I can't think of any restaurant that I know that does that. I mean, I guess it's effective.
It is effective because I'll forget to look at Instagram, and it's been a couple times where like, oh yeah, you should have looked at Instagram, and like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, like I just didn't think of it. But like, yeah, and then are we in red? Are we in purple? Are we in orange? Like I can't keep up with all the, because you know we flip flop a lot. You know, we're open, then we're closed, then it's just takeout, then it's patio dining, and it's like
Yeah, there are a couple places in Forestville proper, you know, like the main street is like a block. I mean, it's a tiny town, even though the area, and that's where I live in that area, but the area itself is really big and there's a lot of people, but it's just so spread out. But the sort of there is like, it's just really a few places. It's not like, oh wow, I have like 20 options. No, not even. I mean, you can drive to the next town and you have more, but Forestville itself is very small. And there have been a few places, because I drive down that little patch of road somewhat often, and it's like, you know, there's like a little it's not a winery because it's in town, but it's like, the wineries will have like a little tasting room,
Oh
in a
yeah.
town or whatever. And there was one that when I first moved here and life was very different, I was like, oh, that's so cute. I've never been there. I don't remember that being there when I was younger and I lived in the area. And it's like, it has never once been open for the last year. And I figure like, well, maybe like, I mean, is it ever going to open again? Maybe the winery is still doing its thing and they can like pay the rent, to have that spot, or maybe they own the building, who even knows?
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's like, I've just gotten used to it just being this thing, and there's
Yeah.
a sign, and it looks cute, and it's never open.
Yeah, no, it's actually really funny. There's a little place like that in town, and I've gotten to know the owner. And him and I text now about wine deliveries. And it's like, okay, so yes, I was kind of complaining about these janky websites and living in the country and people aren't really connected. But I also kind of like that mom and pop sort of relationship where now this guy has such an exotic name and he's a really cool guy and he knows a lot about wine and he has great wine, but he's only open like Friday and Saturday between like, a certain time and I can't always get to him. And so we have a back and forth about what he has coming in and he'll hold some bottles for me. And I like that. I kind of think it's cool. Like I don't have to stress about getting there when he's open and I can always meet him on a time where he's not open and pick up some wine. And I kind of dig that small town thing.
Well, yeah, small towns. I mean, take the good, take the bad.
It's all trade-offs, man.
It is. It really is. I'm so used to this now, and it kind of, I don't know, I've fallen back into some sort of weird, my past life where I always did live in the country when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and that was something that I wanted to escape. And then, and now I'm back, and it was like just so many kind of circumstances fell into place in order for me to even be where I am right now. But it's such a reality because
Yeah.
I've been here for a while. And I don't know. I went and saw my mom last night. I just dropped in because she doesn't live that far away from me, and she's excited to see me and she's trying to feed me. And she's like, oh, Stanley Tucci episode is about to start on CNN. Your timing is great. And it's like, those are like these like precious
Yeah.
hours that I really am like, it would be hard for me to like willfully make it harder to see my mom at this
Yeah.
point, even though for years it was like, well, got to fly to LA, and she would,
Yeah.
and it was super fun, but there was a little bit more pressure to be like, okay, what are we gonna do? And you got your bags packed. I'll get you at the
Yeah.
airport, and and then we're gonna, here's our itinerary.
It's not as spontaneous.
No, it's not at all. And sometimes it can be, I mean, travel is just, there's always stress involved with travel. And just to not have that be part of seeing, the person I love most in life is really nice. And there's like all these blossoms out right now. It's just really pretty around here.
Yeah,
I love this time of year because things start to come alive again.
Me
And
too.
yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, it's nice. It's like in LA, like things are kind of growing all the time. And I really love the cactus and the succulents, but I'm really appreciating this area so much too. It's so different, but there's so many flowers that bloom in stages. And I don't really remember that as much in LA. I feel like, yeah, you have like the cactus flowers but it was different. There's something where like the spring really, it's like that super bloom thing. It's like everything just pops.
You're right. Yeah. I know people from the East Coast are, they always say, oh, you don't know what seasons are. And I know that it's much more dramatic depending on where you live at certain times of year, like for sure. I get it. But around here, I mean, everything is a vineyard. Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, there's a few like, I don't know, old apple orchards and horses and stuff like that, but it's mostly vineyards. And vineyards are not that pretty in the winter. They're just
they're not.
it's just a bunch of branches, really. And then when it starts to come alive again, it's like, oh, like
Gorgeous.
that 20-minute drive that I take where I just kind of look around and go like, everything's dead and it's cold. All of a sudden it's like, oh wow, it's so pretty. And then it's pretty, and then in the
Totally perks you up.
yeah, in the autumn the leaves change a little bit, and then then you go back to winter. But yes, it's something to look forward to. We were talking about reality shows earlier, which is funny because I didn't even talk about the Real World and the reunion that they're doing right now. But it just, they just happen to be doing it. Okay, so you've probably heard of The Real World, but
Of course.
if you haven't, it was kind of the first like that it's that reality show that we're talking about where cameras are just sort of in a house and the producers are sort of invisible and there's a bunch of people who are just being taped to have their lives taped, and you figure out how they really are because they never get to get away, or write some sort of a narrative about, their lives. It's like, it's all very real. And that was the first show that did something like this. It was on MTV, extremely popular. I mean, I would be shocked if anyone's listening to this and they're like, never heard of it, because there's been like, I don't know, 400 different seasons, in various cities around the world. Mostly in the US though. And the first one was in New York. And I was in high school. And I think it was 1992, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a really big deal. And the people who were on the show, there was 7 strangers picked to live in a house. Yeah, so there were 7 of them. I know the spiel because I've seen it so many times. And they were in New York, and they were a little bit older, but they were like early 20s. So it was like, oh, they're, it's that cool age where when you're in high school, you're like, oh wow, they're cool, like slightly older than me, but relatable. And the whole idea is like, oh yeah, get a bunch of people that wouldn't normally have anything to do with each other because they've come from different backgrounds and they have, different philosophies on life and blah, 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 and of course, like chaos will ensue and someone's going to fight with so-and-so and maybe there would be a love connection and, all of that. And the show ended up getting like really lame after a while, and probably just because I got old enough to where I was like, you know what, I need to like stop watching The Real World on MTV all the time. But at the time, it was like such a, it was a very novel concept.
Well, wasn't it one of the first reality shows?
It
I mean,
was.
really?
I mean,
Yeah.
in the way that we are now used to reality shows, it totally was. That whole kind of thing where it's like, wow, they just like have to get used to the cameras being on them and like not look at the camera, and then I guess they just sort of forget that the cameras are there, but do they really ever really forget, all that stuff. Again, fascinating. Well, that show again has had so many incarnations, but that original cast is now doing a season back in New York in the same loft that they were in, 30 years ago, almost. And it's really a trip because I watched that show. I mean, I was very into it, and I remember, I mean, of course, like I haven't kept up with these people. I don't know, what they're doing. Except one, Heather B, she like became sort of a successful, she was like a rap artist and like a DJ on a New York station. And so she's been around, but everybody else I had lost track of. And it is crazy because you look at them and obviously we all age, but I was always a little younger than them, That was how they were to me when I was young. And so now I look at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, everyone's gotten real, a lot older. Not in a bad way, just older. And then I'm like, but me too. like I'm looking at people who are like about 50 years old now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, yeah, because we've all gotten older. But it's so weird because it's out of context because I don't know them and they don't know me. So when I'm watching it, I'm still that kid who's like, oh, this is cool. Look, wow, they got so old. Oh yeah, me too.
Me too.
Yeah. It's just
Totally.
it's a real trip.
It is a real trip.
I don't know how I only have watched the first couple episodes. I don't know how compelling it's really going to be because I'm sort of over that stuff. But yeah, it's everything
It's a
comes around.
marker in time.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like we're approaching 50 very quickly here.
Well, you might be, Heather. Yeah, I know.
The thing is, you got to embrace it. And it's like, I
embrace it.
definitely don't embrace it, but I try to. There's a lot of comedy around it, and I try to kind of lean into that. It can be very amusing getting older and realizing how silly the world is.
Oh, indeed. So yeah, so I'll keep you all up to date on the real world reunion and if anything nutso happens.
Yes, please do.
But yeah, it's just how time flies, right?
Oh, time certainly flies. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Sarah, and say that you're a homebody with adventurous tendencies. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because I'd say I am too. I don't know if you would agree with that. I maybe I see myself differently than other people do, but I definitely feel like I'm kind of that like ambivert. I definitely feel like I have gotten way more homebody because of COVID, and I think a lot of people have.
Yeah, I've had to.
And I feel like it had more, maybe like a negative connotation, but now it's maybe cooler to be a homebody because we've all kind of perfected our homes and we've had all this time to like really kind of lean into it. But the definition of homebody is interesting. It's a person who likes to stay at home, especially one who is perceived as unadventurous. And I thought, see, I feel like I have homebody tendencies, but I definitely like a good adventure, and I think you're the same. And I brought it up to a group of friends of mine because I wanted to see who's a real bona fide homebody here. Like I wanted to kind of have a discussion. And I had forgotten that my friend Alice had a blog for a long time called Homebody in Motion with the exact theme. So I guess it is a good conversation. I mean, do you feel like being a homebody is kind of like an unattractive thing?
I mean, I just don't care. I don't care if anyone, what people think. I think for a long time, and this for sure just has to do with getting older because
Yeah.
it's the COVID thing. Yeah, I mean, we've all been forced to just chill at home and and hunker down whether we wanted to or not. But for years before that, I mean, I really relish my alone time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like inside my house. I could go on a long walk or whatever, but, or get lost in the stars kind of thing. But that's just, I like it. And I have lived alone for a really long time now. Even when I've had like a partner, I still like that. I don't care if they leave for a while. I'm like,
Yeah,
cool, great.
totally.
I'm gonna chill. But I do like an adventure. I like spontaneity. I think that all still has a place for me.
Yeah.
I don't know when my next vacation is going to be, for example, but I'm a pretty good traveler, and I
you
like
are.
to do kind of crazy things and see the world and have stories to tell. But yeah, the homebody stuff is for sure me. I mean,
Yeah.
not being able to stay up to watch Saturday Night Live is like a real thing because I'm not doing anything on Saturday night except sleeping.
But it feels so good. Yeah, there's something
Yeah,
about
there's just
a
nothing I
comfort.
feel like I'm missing.
Yeah, I agree. Because I have that. I really have that tendency, and I don't know where the ratio is, but I would say like when there's like a good rainstorm rolling in, like I'll be kind of happy because I can kind of like snuggle up and watch a lot of movies and stuff. But then I'm like, there's times when I'm really restless and antsy, and I really think that there is room in the world for an adventurous homebody. And, where do you draw the line? I wouldn't be able to be on the road. I know people who are always on the road. They cannot be home. They feel uncomfortable home. They don't want to be alone. They have to be kind of interacting and traveling. I just would be exhausted. Like I couldn't do it. And, and I think that there are some people who feel like, the homebody thing is like unsexy.
Well, like F them. I just can't. I can't imagine carrying. I don't know. It's like I'm not telling you what to do. I mean, so yeah, go travel. I think I used to have this boyfriend who shall remain nameless who did not like to be alone. And I mean, a lot of people don't like that, but it was something that, it used to bother me at times because it wasn't so much that he was clingy just with me, even though, I mean, we obviously liked each other. We wanted to hang out a lot, but we never lived together, so it was like there was some space. But it used to bother me that he just didn't like being alone, period.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of creating these scenes where people were surrounding him.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't, just two people at a bar. No, let's get six of us kind of thing, or oh, we're going to go to a movie. Oh, I invited, these other people to also come kind of thing. And it was like, it wasn't that I didn't like the people.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. But I was like, what is your problem? Like, you always have to create that, like this. It's like
Yeah.
a
I know
party
people like that too.
because it's like you want to feel like it's helping you feel alive.
Yeah,
You know,
for
and
sure.
that's fine sometimes, but you seem to not be able to be alone, period. I mean, he was never alone.
Yeah,
And
I know people like that.
and it was like I mean, it wasn't like a deal breaker, but it was something that I was like, that's just not
Not
me at
you.
all. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't know why you it because it's like people can suck the energy out of you.
Oh yeah, like
It's
for
like,
me, I like the kind of the one-on-one thing. Like I get a little more quiet in big groups because it kind of exhausts me. But it's funny. It's like I think one telltale sign that you're like a real homebody is like when you're happy when someone like cancels plans with you. And
oh
you're
my
like,
gosh,
"Ooh,
best
yes."
day of my life. Yeah, always.
So I want to know: are you a homebody and proud of it, or are you kind of embarrassed to admit it? Please email us at hi@havesuchagagoodday.com.
Yeah, email us about whatever is on your mind. We love getting
All
your
the
emails.
things.
In fact, we got a few emails
We
over the
did.
last week. I was talking about the power outage on our previous show on show 91. This is show 92. And Jude wrote in and said, "I think it's time to get an old-fashioned landline, Sarah." Jude, you might be right about that. You might be right about that. I haven't had one in a long time. I know my mom still has a landline. I know people who have them for emergencies.
Yeah.
And I've always been like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea, just in case. But no, I
So not you.
it's
You're too
just,
digital.
yeah, it's probably something to have, or even something to like think about putting in the Airbnb. Like, again,
Yeah, that's
emergency
true. Like an
stuff.
emergency phone, like a red emergency phone.
Just something where you can call a
bat
fire
phone.
department or something, like that
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
totally.
It's probably a good idea. So yes, Jude, thank you. Good reminder.
And you can even, while you're at it, put a phone book in the house.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Brett also wrote in. I had mentioned, I was like last week or the week before, about if anyone would be interested in a Have Such a Good Day ball cap kind of thing. And Brett said, I definitely rock an HSGD hat. So
Oh,
that
nice.
is good feedback.
That's great.
All y'all that haven't written in about that, let us know if you care or not care about this ball cap idea.
Indeed. And then Allie, our friend Allie, who does write in often, which is great. We all used to work together, Heather and Allison and I, back in the day. But she said sodium-related bloating, dogwood trees, teeth grinding. Just wanted to say it's nice to get old with you ladies. Hope we can have a glass of wine someday, talk about birds and stuff. And you know what?
She always says the right thing.
I second that, Allison.
Me too. I
I
third
really
it.
do. Yeah, it's been so long. That would be
We have to have a
so
little
fun.
reunion. It'll be
Would.
like our version of like the real world, you know?
Right, yeah. To find out what happens when people stop being polite, start getting real.
I wonder what city that's going to be actually, like where we're going to meet up and have our reunion.
I don't know.
We'll have to be strategic. Maybe Santa Fe. We'll see.
Maybe Santa Fe is the right place. Yeah.
Just planting a seed.
Well, just a reminder, I have such a good day.com is where to send emails. But if you want to support us on this little show of ours, you can do so by becoming a patron if you're not already. Huge thanks to all of our patrons. We love you all. Always looking for new patrons. We have lofty goals for the show, but it takes a village, and there's just us two producing it. So
Little ladies.
patreon.com/have such a good day is where to find out more about how you can support the show. If you're so inclined, you can join our Discord at the $5 and up Patreon level, and we
Just
always,
$5.
I know, $5 a month.
I mean, who doesn't want to be a $5 bala? That is
Yeah.
like the coolest title.
Indeed. But yeah, we have fun conversations in there all the time, and always looking for more troops.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, please join us. We come one, come all. We don't discriminate.
To the Good Day Ball. Also, we're on Instagram and Twitter, HSGD Show, in both places. We post about new episodes and throw up some threw up some photos here and there. So
And sometimes we take naps. So if there's
Sometimes
times where you're like, why haven't they posted anything?
It's
We might be
because we're
taking a
napping.
siesta.
That's right. Yeah, doing a
Girls got to rest. We got to get our beauty rest.
I was very tired, people. I had to take a nap. I actually took a nap over the weekend. I haven't taken a nap in a long time. It was
They can
great.
be wonderful, but they can also, you can wake up and feel really groggy. Sometimes I don't like taking naps, but they can
That's
be
actually
also,
why I avoid them. But
Yeah.
it all depends on how I sleep at night. Because if I'm sleeping well, it's like, why would I need a nap? I don't want to take a nap. I want to be awake, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a couple hours. I guess it was Saturday. Yeah, because it wasn't yesterday. And it's funny, like my little house, my tiny home that I live in is all windows. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like ridiculous amount of windows, which is great, you know, because it's pretty outside. You know, I like having windows, but where my couch is, it's directly facing the fireplace, and that's where my TV is mounted.
Yeah.
And so if I'm sitting on my couch, I feel very secluded. Nowhere else in the house, though. Everywhere else is window, 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 skylight, skylight. You know, it's the whole thing. Even in my bathroom, I'm like, oh my God. But when I'm sitting on the couch, which I don't really do during the day, because I kind of just only sit there if I'm sort of like, okay, I'm unwinding, I'm going to watch Intervention or something like that. But because just, it's hard to explain, but it's like when I'm sitting, and especially because I'm sitting, so I'm like low, it's like I'm invisible. It's the only little place where it's not, you know, kind of a window thing.
Yeah.
And
Do you have
laid.
curtains?
Yeah, I have shades. I mean, I could shut the place up if I want to, but I don't want to do that during the day,
Yeah.
you know? But it's psychological, you know? But I laid down and I was on the couch and I was just like, no one can see me. You know, I'm going to close my eyes for a little bit.
I
And
love it.
it was a nice nap. It was a really nice nap.
Good. I'm glad. That sounds awesome.
I don't think people are like monitoring me in my home, but it's that like feeling of like, yeah, like I'm just not near a window.
I definitely have issues with that. Like yesterday, I wanted to watch TV, but I felt weird to close the shades in the middle of the day. And I don't really like, I feel we're like in a fishbowl. I mean, we have lots of windows too. And I definitely feel like I keep looking out to see if somebody's like knocking at the door or, you know, looking through the window. It does make me a little nervous. So I definitely feel like I have to like close the shades and really make sure that I'm, you know, buttoned up before I do anything private.
We are such weird homebodies, you know? That's the moral of this episode. We're
But
just
have you
weird.
seen us party and travel? Because we can definitely throw down.
Yes, we can.
We're very diverse ladies.
Adventurous, spirited people who, you know, who happen to need to close the shades during the day, so we can feel safe. God. You know, sometimes you talk through it and you're like, wow, I sound weird.
Yeah,
I sound
totally.
really weird.
That's the beauty of the show. We're laying it all out there for you.
It's true. Yeah,
You
we
either
are
like
who
it or
we
you
are,
don't.
and exactly. We really hope you like us, but if
really
you
hope.
don't, I mean, not much we can do. We're kind of cemented in these ways, everyone.
Not much room for change anymore.
Like, although it would be great, and perhaps soul crushing if someone like wrote in, you know, email us and it's like, you know, great show, but I'd like your personalities to change in these 5 different ways.
Hey, I would actually like you to write in if you feel this way.
Me too.
Can't really change people, Sarah.
Not after a certain. Everyone's capable of change, but there's a certain point where you have to be honest with yourself.
You do.
You know, I have these moments a lot where I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to be a better version of myself, and I get things wrong all the time. You know, and that's just being a human. And you know, it's good to recognize it and you know, take criticism, where that's warranted. But yeah, there are just certain things where you go, you know, I'm just not gonna change. It's just not gonna, I can't do it. You know,
That's
it's
why
just not happening.
You surround yourself with people who love you unconditionally.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Unconditionally. That's an interest. We'll put a pin in that.
Yes,
and
we will.
Let's talk about it next week, because that's actually, unconditional love is one of those terms that I think gets thrown around where I'm like, I don't think
Kinda like
unconditional I don't think it really exists.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think
There's
there
judgment.
are always conditions.
Sounds like such a Seinfeld thing.
It really does. Yeah, it's a Seinfeld skit. But
Let's unpack this maybe next week.
all right, that sounds good. For now, we're gonna sign off. But it's been a lovely episode 92.
It's been a hoot.
Thanks for hooting with us. And we'll be back next week and do it all again.
Love you guys. I'll remain Heather.
Love you guys. I'll remain Sarah.
Have such a good day.